Welcome back to the Flagship studio here at the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference. I am delighted to be joined in the studio by Craig Williams of Apriori. Craig, thank you for being here.
Of course, of course.
Craig, this week we've been talking a lot about Newbar's annual letter, the concept of polyintelligence, which is the fusion of human intelligence, nature's intelligence, and machine intelligence. At Apriori, in the last year, you've added a lot to that human intelligence quotient by bringing on some new members of your leadership team and board. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, 2024 was an exciting year. We kind of transitioned Apriori from being a platform company to a platform company with a pipeline. But with that comes the requirement for new capabilities to go from a platform company focused on exploration and building to a platform company focused on development and delivery. And I think with that, we looked across not only our team, our immediate team, where we hired Harry Cleanthus, our CSO, who has an amazing background in vaccine development, over 30 years in vaccine development. We looked across our scientific advisor community and added a regulatory capability, a development capability there through Ian Hudson, ex-CEO of MHRA, and Catherine Jensen from Pfizer, who actually has a wealth of experience through the COVID crisis. And we transmitted that also to our board, where we built a board who had extreme global presence, but also an experience in access and delivery and understanding the public health requirements for dealing with things like pandemics and mutating viruses that continue to escape everyday vaccines. So it was an amazing year bringing in the right talent, the right science, the right expertise that allows us to transition from this company that was about exploration and building and coming up with that innovation to one that then applies that innovation in a way that can reach patients ultimately.
And you talked about platform to products to patients. And of course, over the last 5 years, we've heard a lot about vaccines.
Yes.
How would you define the current state of vaccine technology?
Wow. Well, this might go back 225 years.
Oh
so
boy,
I don't know
how much
if you
time do we have? Yeah.
But it's funny because in 1796, Edward Jenner discovered, yes. Well, he discovered that cowpox could protect against smallpox, and that by recreating an antigen that mimicked the virus in a non-harmful way, we can actually prevent the future opportunities for infection from that virus. And while that was a revolution at its time, and there have been some advances since, we still are heavily influenced by trial and error and looking at currently circulating strains or previously circulating strains in order to design our vaccines. And so what we did at Apriori is really leverage that convergence of AI and machine learning and biology, that polyintelligence that looks across not only this new technology, but nature itself, and really sought to map viral evolution, really predict where the virus is going, so you didn't have to rely on where the virus is and where it was, but where it will be. A good example that we all lived through was COVID, 20 mutations a year, for example. Flu we lived through on a yearly basis, and really taking a look at these mutating viruses and really leveraging AI and machine learning to reduce this massively theoretical infinite variant space to something actionable, to where we can essentially come up with the mutational probability of a variant happening and really counter that with a vaccine that's designed for the future.
So predicting viral mutations, the Octavia platform helps you do this. Take us a step deeper into the logistics, the nuts and bolts of how Octavia works.
Yeah. So we essentially have a platform that allows us to take the existing circulating strains, design huge single mutant, multi-mutant libraries that allow us to interrogate the virus and map immune escape. So we essentially can find out which of the mutations are most likely to fold, bind, express, and essentially evade immune pressure. And so by building these libraries, we're able to, through our algorithms and deep mutational scanning, put pressure on the virus, see where it evades immune pressure and vaccine pressure, and then design against that. And our designs really help kind of focus the immune response where we see escape happening. So it's really not just the deep mutational scanning and the predictive modeling that allows us to map viral evolution, but how we turn that into antigen design, leveraging those insights is what that mix of computational and data science and experimental science is really all about.
Ugh, so neat.
Yeah.
So variant resilient vaccines certainly would be the holy grail of this space. In your mind, what does the future look like, both for public health, for doctors, and ultimately for people who might be getting vaccines?
Yeah. Well, because we can identify escape mutations, optimize antigen design, we can predict vaccine performance, I do see a world where our vaccines are broadly protective regardless of your age, your pre-existing immunity, where you are in the world, and really a world where we rebuild vaccine confidence, which I think is somewhat lacking these days because we're building these broadly protective vaccines that have proven to work over a long period of time. So increasing that durability increases confidence and it increases immunization rates, which makes us all safer. So ultimately, we're looking to reimagine vaccinology, build confidence in the vaccines that we have, and really be ready for the pandemic threats that are no doubt on the horizon. And so not only can we address existing threats, but we can address the future threats and be ready for them.
Well, I was just going to ask you, Craig, it was about 5 years ago at this time where we started to hear word about a virus in Wuhan and nobody knew exactly what that was going to be. If we could rewind the clock 5 years and Apriori were there as it is now, what would that look like?
Yes.
How would that last 5 years be different?
You know, I remember where I was when Omicron hit. And I think a lot of people have that memory of just, wow, this is just going to keep going and continue to mutate. And in a world where Apriori existed then, we not only would have been able to predict immune escape of that variant, but also design a vaccine to counter it. And so some of that curtailing of the devastation of COVID throughout the years would have actually happened because we would have had vaccines designed for that evolution, knowing that Omicron would escape current immune pressure. And so you end up in a space, ultimately, where you're countering that evolution and stifling that evolution and really curtailing the morbidity and mortality that comes with these viruses.
Very exciting work, Craig. Thank you so much for sharing with us about it today.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.